Hi everyone, Marian here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another episode in my summer series all about converting to Judaism. And I'm so excited for this week's episode because with me, I'm being joined today by Rabbi Adam Greenwald, and he runs the Miller program from the American Jewish University. And their program, their Introduction to Judaism course, is the largest one in North America to offer people an opportunity to learn about a path towards Judaism if that's what they're considering in their heart. So I'm so excited to have the expert here with me today. And I'm going to let Adam introduce himself. But before that, I just wanted to let you guys know that the questions we're going to be talking about were ones that you guys submitted through my Instagram and email and Facebook. So thank you so much to everyone who submitted questions. A lot of them are very personal and relate to matters that I know are things that people are really struggling with. So I'm really thankful to have Rabbi Adam here to help answer these questions for us. And of course, if you have any more questions, you can always put them in the comment section below, DM me, email me. I will also have Rabbi Adam's contact info as well as all the contact info for the Miller program, which there is a virtual option. I know everything is virtual right now, so we'll talk to Rabbi Adam more about that as well. I also want to mention that Rabbi Adam is also a Jewish dad. He's in the nursery right now, right? That beautiful artwork behind you.
Yeah, my wife is much more talented than me. She's a curator with a focus in contemporary Jewish art. So when you live with a curator, everything in the house is kind of fun. And what's behind me is this little village that she created over the baby's crib.
That's awesome. So yes, anything else that we should know about you before we dive into our questions?
I'm Rabbi Adam Greenwald. I'm a rabbi ordained in the conservative denomination, which is sort of the middle of the three big Jewish denominations. And for the last 9 years, I've been running the Miller Introduction to Judaism program at American Jewish University, where I get to work with the most curious and courageous people who are exploring Jewish identity. It's really wonderful. Marian, just wanted to say how grateful I am to you for having me on, and particularly for highlighting this subject. We don't talk enough about Jews by choice in our community, and the fact that you are making this accessible to all of the many thousands and thousands of people who learn from you on a regular basis, it's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so let's jump in. We're going to keep it real. Some of these questions, like I said, really took me, really surprised me and stuff. So I'm really excited to jump into them. My first one, they're in no particular order, I'll say, but a little bit by popularity because some of them were definitely asked multiple times. So my first question is, I've tried reaching out to rabbis, but no one is returning my call. So for people who are trying to convert, try to talk to a rabbi, no response. What should they do?
Well, let me tell you what it's not. You might have heard that there's a tradition of turning somebody away 3 times who comes to convert. And I think there was even a Sex and the City episode dedicated to that premise. So you might think that rabbis aren't calling you back because they're trying to make you prove how into it you are. Really what's happening is that every single rabbi I know is so overworked and behind in their emails. So I want to encourage whoever asked that question to just be persistent. It's not disrespectful to send another email a few days later and say, no, really, Rabbi, like I want to become Jewish.
Right.
I got to tell you, I appreciate when people do that for me. And sometimes people are so hesitant and don't want to be disrespectful of the clergy that they wouldn't dream of sending an email twice. I need it, and so does every other rabbi I know.
So following up on the rabbi question, the next question I got is how to reach out to a rabbi.
Reach out to a rabbi the same way you reach out to any other professional. You shoot us an email or give us a phone call. During these times when most of us aren't able to be in our synagogues and offices, email is really best. And if you need help finding a rabbi to start the process of a conversion journey, I know, Marian, you'll include my email address in the notes, and I would be more than happy if you email me. I can connect you up with a rabbi local to you.
So going back to something you mentioned before about Sex in the City, is it true that rabbis will refuse you 3 times before they're willing to talk to you?
A lot of people have heard this idea that a rabbi is supposed to turn you away 3 times before they allow you to become Jewish. And that idea has some historical value to it, going back to a time when Jews were really fearful of the outside world, and somebody who was coming to become Jewish, you kind of wondered about their motivations.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's not to say that there isn't anti-Semitism in the world, and of course there is, but the overwhelming majority of people who come to convert are just doing it out of deep curiosity and a desire to be part of our people. So most rabbis don't follow a tradition of turning people away 3 times. That said, conversion to Judaism is a longer process than conversion to a lot of other religions.
So the next question I got was about the program that you run, and can you participate if you don't live in Los Angeles? Because I know that's where American Jewish University is based.
Yeah, so the Miller Introduction to Judaism program at American Jewish University is the biggest program in all of North America helping people to convert to Judaism. Last year, we had 350 students take the program, and we also supply our curriculum to 60 other synagogues across 27 states and Canada. So you can actually take the Miller program at the JCC of Manhattan, or from the Joint Collective Rabbis of Denver or Philadelphia. So chances are, wherever you live, there is a Miller Introduction to Judaism program near you. And again, if you reach out or go to the website, we can show you how to find somebody local. In addition, for the last 4 months, since we've needed to move everything into the cloud, the Miller program is now online. So in the class that I'll be teaching later on tonight, there is a student joining us from Mexico, a student joining us from Wyoming, a student joining us from Atlanta, and even a student joining from the Philippines, where it is the day before. So it has actually never been easier to take an Introduction to Judaism class. And even when, God willing, we're able to be back together again, we're still going to be offering classes online because it's so amazing to be able to welcome people in wherever they live in the world.
Totally. So the next question I found really interesting. It's something that I had never considered as someone, who did not convert. And that question is, are you obligated, or is there an obligation to tell people that you converted?
It's such a good question. By Jewish law, actually, laid down 2,000 years ago in a set of books called the Talmud, not only are you not obligated to tell somebody that you're a convert, but no Jewish person is permitted to ask you if you are a convert. Right? Wow. Nobody is allowed to come up to you and say, remember when you weren't Jewish? Once you're a Jew through and through. And I tell my students, it's just like a child being adopted into a family. Once a child is adopted into a family, they're as much the child of their parents as if they had emerged into that family biologically. And there is honestly a special place in hell for anybody who tells an adopted child otherwise. And so too for an adopted Jew. Once you're a part of the Jewish people, you are absolutely, fully and completely, not second-class citizen, a part of the Jewish people.
I love that. And of course, I think this question speaks to not just some insecurities, but I'm sure there has been moments where people have not been accepting, just like anything else. But it's good to know that that is not, taught, and that is not something that the Jewish community sanctions in any way.
There are going to be small-minded people in any community, and we are not immune to that either. And there will be people who will look askance at somebody who converted. I can't promise that there won't be. But if you're in that position, know that you actually have 2,000 years of Jewish tradition on your side, saying that the questions or the comments that you're receiving are inappropriate, and it's okay to say that to somebody.
Right. Okay, this one I also found super fascinating. The question is, I'm married. Does my husband also have to convert if I do? And the reason I thought this was so interesting is because me and my husband have super different levels of observance. We have very different thoughts and views about God and religion. So I feel like this is kind of an issue in any marriage, but I guess, of course it would come up if one person in the couple is trying to convert.
Right. This is a question that divides rabbis, honestly. There are some who would say the only way that somebody could convert is if they're going to be joining a fully Jewish family, a unified family, and they wouldn't want to create a family that might have some interreligious tension in it. And then there are other rabbis who would come down on the other side and say, just because you're married to somebody doesn't mean you stop growing as a person. And
Right.
if that growth leads you towards Judaism, you should be allowed to explore that and not put in the impossible position of having to choose between your partner who you've dedicated your life to being with and to a newfound faith. So I tend to come down in the latter camp. I believe that people can continue to grow, and if that growth includes becoming Jewish, then I want to support that. And in those situations, I always make sure I have a lot of conversations with both the person who's exploring Judaism and their partner, and if there are kids, also with the whole family, to
Right.
make sure that there's a plan for how this isn't going to be a wedge driven into a family, because I would never want to be part of dividing spouses or creating tension over what you're going to teach the kids or anything like that.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so my next question is kind of the reverse of the previous one, and that is how to navigate a conversion when your Jewish partner or family isn't observant. So someone who's Jewish, but they're not really all that Jewish when it comes down to it in terms of, observance level.
This happens all the time, right? A non-Jewish woman is in a relationship with a Jewish man, and she comes to an Intro to Judaism class and studies about Shabbat, and then comes home and says, actually, honey, instead of going out to dinner on Friday night, we're going to stay in. And he says, wait a minute, that's way more than I signed up for. And by the way, she wants to then cook kosher food, and that's just unacceptable.
Right.
So this comes up all the time. And what I say to Jewish partners, male and female, by the way, because men aren't the only offenders here, is that for somebody who's born Jewish, you don't actually need to do anything Jewish in order to feel Jewish. I feel Jewish no matter what. I look in the mirror and I see a Jewish person looking back at me. It's in me.
Right.
For somebody who's becoming Jewish, they have to do Jewish things in order to feel Jewish. The actions lead to the feelings. And so quite often for somebody who's going through a conversion process, they need to celebrate Shabbat in a more hardcore way, or they need to take on holidays that maybe their Jewish partner hasn't done since they were a kid, or maybe even they want to experiment with keeping kosher or some of the other mitzvot. That's all a part of the process of doing actions in order to feel a part of the community. And I say to the Jewish partner, it's really your responsibility to join together with this person that you love and to be supportive of her, to be supportive of him by joining and doing these things, not because you need it for your Jewish identity, though as a rabbi, I think they should all be doing these things anyway, but because the doing, the actions lead to the feelings for your partner, and it's not fair to ask them to do it by themselves.
So building on that question about observance, how observant, this is my next question, how observant do you have to be to convert?
The question of how observant you need to be to convert really depends on the denomination of Judaism that you're converting through. So a rabbi on the much more liberal end of the spectrum might not ask you to strictly keep Shabbat or strictly keep kosher, where a rabbi on the much more traditional end of the spectrum absolutely would. So really the process of becoming Jewish has a lot to do with finding the rabbi, finding the teacher, the coach, who can help guide you through the process and who will challenge you and also meet you where you are. So who will offer you opportunities to do things that you hadn't necessarily imagined yourself to do, but isn't going to set a standard of observance that is so high that you can't possibly reach it.
Right.
Bottom line, just as different Jews do different levels of observance, so do converts, because converts are Jews, after all.
Okay, my next question was something I actually received a few times in different variations, and that's, I'm a teenager. Am I too young to convert? And what if my parents don't approve?
Such an interesting question. I've had a few teens who have come to take the program, and it's always a question, right? Of on one hand, you should be free to explore ideas and ways of being in the world. I mean, that's what being a teenager is all about.
Right.
And also, there's an element of becoming Jewish, which is a lifelong commitment, just sort of like getting married or having a baby. And we discourage teenagers from doing both of those things because you shouldn't have to lock yourself in to one life path before you've even reached your 20s.
Mhm.
So I think that somebody who's a teenager who's interested in Judaism should absolutely start by reaching out to a rabbi, by taking a class like the Introduction to Judaism program, learning about it and seeing how it fits for them. Whether or not they actually go through with the formal steps of conversion, that would probably be on a case-by-case basis. But learning, that's absolutely for everybody, and teenage years are a great time to be learning about Jewish life.
That sounds like really sound advice. And as a parent, even though my kids are really young, I think I would appreciate, that they were taking a different path in life than I had envisioned for them, that they do so slowly and, with a lot of thought, especially in those tumultuous teen years. But I
Yeah,
totally understand the feelings and pull towards something, especially when you're at that age and wanting to embrace it in every way an adult would.
totally.
My next question is related to sort of the virtual learning. I have no Jewish community close by. Is it still possible to convert under these circumstances?
That's a hard question because Judaism, unlike many other religious traditions, is not primarily a private faith. Like, it's not primarily about how you feel in your heart or how you personally relate to God. It really is inseparably linked from community. And so we really do want, when somebody comes to convert, for them to have at least a reasonable possibility of being integrated into a bigger Jewish community so they can have the full range of Jewish experiences. Shabbat by yourself is a little bit sad, right? Holidays require other people. So when somebody approaches me who lives far from a Jewish community, first of all, often they don't live as far as they think. There are really Jews everywhere. Second of all, there is virtual community, and that's becoming more and more possible, that one can join in synagogue services and do all sorts of things online. But if somebody is really totally in a place where they can't possibly find Jewish community, I'd say it's much harder to think about what their conversion journey looks like. Nothing is impossible, but it's more of a challenge, because being part of Judaism isn't just about what you believe, it's about the community that you're within.
Yes, and I was just thinking, at this time when we're all so isolated, I've been extremely grateful for the Jewish community that I'm a part of, because, just small things, or not, and maybe even big things like a rabbi checking in and having, group chats and things like that has just made me feel very close. So I think the benefit of the Jewish community goes far and beyond, ritual observation to do ritual observance to do together and participate in, but to really benefit from that loving community. Okay, so we have reached our last question, and this one I think is something that a lot of people who convert probably fear, and one that came up a lot in the questions I received, and that is how to handle the feeling of imposter syndrome and how to truly finally feel Jewish after converting.
So I tell my students that you can become Jewish in an afternoon. You come stand in front of the Beit Din, the panel of three rabbis, you go immerse in the mikveh, and at the end of it, you're Jewish. To become and to feel like you're fully a Jew takes years. That's just the truth. Just like any newcomer, think about it in terms of an immigrant experience.
Right.
An immigrant who comes to a new country can 100% become a full citizen of that country. That's a really important thing to affirm, especially now.
Okay.
But it takes some time in order to integrate in with a culture, and that's to be expected. And I also experienced that when I got married. Like, I am a full part of my wife's family, but that didn't happen the instant I slipped a ring on her finger. Like, that happens more and more each time we interact. So I want to encourage people who are becoming Jewish to be gentle on themselves and to set reasonable expectations, to say, yes, you are fully Jewish. If you go through a conversion process, that's what Jewish law requires of you. But that process of feeling like you're part of the Jewish nation or part of the Jewish family, that's actually a lifelong process. And that is true of any joining that has real, deep implications like this one.
Totally. Well, I really appreciate hearing all your answers to this. I know my community will as well. So thank you so much for being here, Rabbi. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up so we know. Feel free to leave us some comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, Rabbi.
So
Bye.
nice to meet you. Bye.